And that'll be back to you, Brian. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Gurkar, and good suggestions for sure. And on the same topic, let's go back to Amal. How do you go about setting realistic goals?
I believe Gurks has already properly covered it all. Just a couple of things I am guilty of is we all have busy life. There will be times that whatever you're trying to do, you cannot attend the club. So my suggestion is schedule all your talks as close as you can. 4 to 6 weeks is a great duration in between. Schedule it. You may not be able to pick all the topics or the right titles by this time, but when you have this target, when there is a will, there is a way. So setting it will make you feel little bit pressure that in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, I have to have this speech. So you will keep thinking about it. It's completely different when you have different ideas and you funnel it all down in a week. Then the following week you start writing your main elements. Then a week before the speech itself, you're finalizing it, you're putting the final touches. So the rest of the week you are rehearsing. That's all what I have.
Thank you, Amal.
Thank you.
We are ready for question number 3. Question number 3. What benefit do you get by taking on different roles? And we've covered some aspects of this already, but we're going to hear some different angles on this for very different reasons. So Bob, can you talk about what benefit you get by taking on different roles?
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, by when I first joined the program, Confidently Speaking Toastmasters, it's like it is about confidently speaking. So by taking on different roles, you have to challenge yourself and reach outside of your comfort zone. So for instance, being the chair for the meeting, at first I was a little nervous about doing it and found it very tough to do. But then once you do it once, it's like a lot easier. By taking on different roles, it can help you in your personal and professional life. And so there is value to doing simple things like timing, humor. Not all of us are phenomenal joke tellers like Manny and Mark and Conrad, but we have a lot of different people from different walks of life in the club. And so you just have to try in different roles every week if you can, and try and take one, as often as you can. But by taking different roles, it does help you develop your personal and professional life quite well. So don't be scared of taking on the chairperson role, the Toastmaster role, an evaluator, etc. Every one of them, can be fun and enjoyable. So don't sit back and just, attend the meeting, participate. Back to you, Brian.
Thank you, Bob. And we will go back to Gurks with the same question. What benefit do you get by taking on different roles?
So benefits of taking on different roles. So I'm going to start off very similar to how I did last time. When we walk in, what we want to do is practice our prepared speeches. Practicing our prepared speeches is an excellent way, and you feel as though it's going to help you going into your work and things like that. But there's so many, so I'll give you a great example of it. So for example, evaluations. That's one thing I was really scared of at the beginning. And I remember I hopped into my first evaluation and I felt it went fairly well. But the biggest thing I wanted to work on at this point right now, so I remember a few months ago, I gave an evaluation that came out to 6 minutes, which was in speech category. Evaluation is between 2 and 3 minutes. So there's so many little things you can work on. The biggest thing, for example, evaluations, going back to that, is you see tremendous speeches sometimes. You see amazing speeches. You need to try and find something that they can improve on. So not only does that benefit the other person, it also benefits you. So what one of our members, Josh Lobo, what he likes to do is he likes to throw in a challenge in there. I'm sure that he's not the only one, but he's the first one that comes to mind. He likes to throw in a challenge in there and say, okay, whoever, if you're evaluating Brian here, Brian, just for next time, here's a little challenge for you. And that might be that, like, Brian did a phenomenal speech, but what you're doing essentially there is giving him like a fine point of improvement. That way, next time he comes around, he's able to work on that. It doesn't stop there, right? Table topics, chair roles, an excellent, because sometimes you're going to have people, for example, Bob's not able to make the meeting, Mark is coming in, and you need to take his introduction at the spot, and you need to be like, okay, Mark, how do you do this? And it's a great role to learn how to improvise and how to manage the whole audience, right? And yeah, that's back to you, Brian.
Okay, and I'm going to pause for just a second and jump in there. Thank you, Gerks. A couple of things just to recap and state them in different ways that people may find interesting. And that is that every single role, and I think you've heard this from multiple people now, teaches you a different skill. And therefore, every single role is valuable because of that particular skill. Take them all, not just one or two that are favorites. Take them all, absolutely, because each one is going to teach you something different, and it always has a lesson that is valuable in the workplace or in life as well. The second one related to that, and it's been alluded to, is we come here to Toastmasters in an environment where we have each other's backs. And I think that exact statement was used earlier. It might have been Bob. I see Bob nodding, that we have each other's backs, and you can, should, and will take risks at Toastmasters that you would never do in the workplace, because we're literally going to cheer you on no matter how much growth potential there is from what you try to do. We're really going to applaud you. So let's move on to question number 4. Question number 4 is, how can you best customize the Pathways program to suit your goals? Let's go back to Mark.
Thank you, Brian. And notice I got off mute all on my own this time. So I have to say that I get people ask me a lot about pathways, and one of the questions I get is, what's the easiest path? I don't want a difficult one. What's the easiest? And the answer is, there is no easy path. Every path is 14 projects. There's no distinction. Every path has the same number of smaller projects and more complex projects. So don't make that part of your decision making. If you want to get the most out of Toastmasters, pick the path that makes the most sense for you. Now, when you first sign up on the website, it'll tell you, okay, take this assessment, and we'll tell you what path to take. So I did that assessment. I got a path, innovative planning, which I absolutely did not want to do. So I switched to something I did want to do, which is engaging humor. That's my path. So my advice is, don't get married to the assessment. It's just one input. Do the path that you want to do. And the path you want to do is the one that you're going to get the most out of. So for me, the good news is there's 4 electives out of these 14 projects. There's 4 electives, and that gives you a chance to customize and make it really spot on with what you're trying to achieve. But whatever path you pick, except for maybe engaging humor, they're all very highly business applicable. You know, they have names like presentation mastery or dynamic leadership. So if you're somebody who wants to work on your presentation skills, I'm thinking maybe presentation mastery is something you might want to look at. Just make sure that you develop those skill sets during this path that help you achieve what you wanted to do in the beginning. And don't take shortcuts. There's a lot of, we only see the visible part of what you do, the speeches and major projects. We don't really see all the background information, the filling out of forms, etc. Don't take those lightly. Learn from them if you want to get the most out of your Pathways experience. And I'll turn it back to you, Brian.
Okay, thank you very much once again, Mark. And let's go back to Bob for final comments on that one in terms of how to customize the path to get the most value, I believe was the question. Let me go back in the document. Yes. So
I believe
how to
that's
best
correct.
customize the Pathways program to suit your goals.
Yeah, and Toastmasters has been around for a long time. It's in over 150 countries, has over 300,000 members, and it has really done a good job of developing a broad range of paths for you to take. It's really evolved into what it is today. So I second the notion with Mark that you should take the path that is most suitable to you, that's going to address the needs and development that you would like to stroll down that path to. So I am in innovative planning, and Mark chose not to, and that's his prerogative. And but there are so many different paths depending upon which way you want to go, and focus on them, and really set some timelines to try and get them done. I'm not as with it and getting things done, but I agree with some of the earlier statements to pick the right path for you, pick the time that's going to work for you, and just make it work once and for all. We all have certain busy times in our lives that we might be out of touch for weeks or a couple months, but nonetheless, you should be able to plan it out and pick the path that best suits you. So back to you, Brian.
And thank you, Bob. Okay, that is the end of our prepared questions, but we now have a treat because we're going to open it up to the audience. David, could you tell me how much time we have used up so far in the segment?
Okay, so I was told I was supposed to just monitor each individual person. I didn't realize I was supposed to monitor the whole thing.
Yeah, because it was 20 to 40 minutes overall. Can we, I'll leave you to do the math while we start in, and maybe you can just interrupt me at some point in time and tell me how far in we are in total, and we'll continue on from there. So if I could ask people to please jump on screen if you're hidden, and we're going to open it up and we will take questions from the audience. I'm going to assume that we have 15 minutes left because I think we're doing pretty good time-wise until David tells me differently. And we will open it up to questions from the audience, and either you can pick who you want to direct it to, or you can actually direct it to me and I will farm it out, so to speak, to one of our panelists. Who would like to start with a question for our group? Okay, Jennifer. Jen's hand was up first. Can you ask a question? Let us know if you have a preferred panelist to answer it as well.
No, you guys can take a pick as to who would like to. I'd like to hear from at least two of you, but I'd like to know, what is your favorite part of your entire experience since you joined?
I'm going to suggest Mark jump in on that, and maybe Bob. Mark, because he's been with Toastmasters the longest, he can probably share a broader experience.
Well, I'm going to give an answer you might think is pretty standard, Jen, but for me, one of the biggest advantages is the people you meet. You meet a lot of really interesting people, and there's a strong bond and a big social aspect to our club. I have to say my favorite event of the year is a pool party, so I hope we have that in the summer. But yeah, I think it's not just the skill set development, it's the environment that you do it in and the people you're with that make it so special.
Cool. And Bob?
And I would second that notion, because to be honest with you, when I first attended as a guest, I brought one of my sons along just because I thought he needed to get out of his shell a little bit, because when I was his age, I was quite shy, and so is he, and he still is. But you have to get out of your comfort zone, and I didn't know one soul in Toastmasters when I first joined the club. Manny certainly was one of the most welcoming people when we came to visit. My son chose not to continue participating, but I said, oh, what the heck, it's close to home. People are so welcoming and friendly. So really, it was it was more about the camaraderie and the social aspect of it. And plus you get exposed and learn about a lot of people from many different countries.